to celebrate 10,000 subscribers! Just as an FYI, I'm not a cooking channel. If you like videos on writing, publishing, and book marketing, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you can see every weekly video that I create. Now, let's get on to the ice cream making. We're in a new filming place, as you may have noticed. Welcome to my kitchen. Yes, the countertops are green. I'm aware I did not pick them out. Thank you. So in case you're wondering, yes, I cleaned my entire kitchen just for this video. And yes, if you pan that way, you will see a giant pile of trash. But we're not gonna focus on that today. So to celebrate hitting 10,000 subscribers, I'm not only gonna do a Q&A, but we're in my kitchen because we're gonna do some ice cream making. So I'm gonna make some homemade ice cream. I made some about 2 weeks ago and unfortunately ate all of it. In between making the ice cream, I'm also gonna be answering the questions. And I'll also leave the recipe to the ice cream that I make down below. So if you wanna try it out, you can. Do know you have to have like an ice cream maker. I have something that I just put on my mixer and it mixes the ice cream, whatever. But you can also get like those rolly balls that make ice cream as well. So the recipe that's gonna be down below is a basic vanilla ice cream recipe. I don't like chocolate-based ice cream, but anything that's vanilla-based is amazing. So I also had you guys vote on Instagram what kind of ice cream you wanted. A lot of you said cookies and cream or cookie dough, and I just made cookies and cream, so now I'm gonna make cookie dough. Unfortunately, I thought if I just took cookie dough and broke it up into pieces and put it in my ice cream, that would work as cookie dough ice cream. I thought there was like some way you could take cookie dough and make it healthy to ingest. But all over this package it says do not eat raw cookie dough, do not eat raw cookie dough, do not eat raw cookie dough. So something tells me I should not eat raw cookie dough. So first what I'm gonna do, since this is the ingredients I bought, I'm gonna make cookies and then I'm gonna like break them up and just put them in the ice cream. I don't know if it's gonna taste good, but it's ice cream, so it should taste good. I'm gonna jump in with the first questions, and in between, I'll go ahead and, actually make the ice cream. I did group these questions by category. We have questions about ice cream, questions about writing, questions about me, and questions about cover design. This will be a long video, but I will make it as entertaining as possible, so stick around. So the first two questions, if you could only eat one ice cream flavor for the rest of your life, what would it be? So I already revealed that I love vanilla-based ice cream. I love some good Moose Tracks because I love the little peanut butter cups, and I've actually made homemade Moose Tracks before and it was amazing. And I'm actually really bummed out that not a single person on Instagram voted for Moose Tracks. And can you make ice cream that's dairy-free? Yes, it's completely possible to make ice cream that's dairy-free, I think. I don't know. I assume it's out there. I used to be lactose intolerant, so I'm actually pretty familiar with different types of ice cream, but none of them taste as good as ice cream. So first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and bake the cookies. So I'm gonna try to bake them as little as possible so we can get some nice soft cookies, not doughy cookies because we need to be safe, but soft cookies. So I'm gonna preheat my oven and place these on a cookie sheet, I guess. It should be pointed out that I am not a professional, and you'll notice that very quickly. So while those cookies bake, I guess we'll answer a few questions. So we've now left the ice cream category and we are moving on to the writing category. How do you plot chapter by chapter? So I wouldn't call it chapter by chapter so much as scene by scene, and I use the save the cat method. And you can either read the book, which I'll link down below. It's Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. Or you can watch the sum of dozens of videos on YouTube. I personally have plotted my entire 4th novel using the Save the Cat method. And I do it scene by scene. I don't do it chapter by chapter, but I assume if you wanted to do it chapter by chapter, you first plot it out using the Save the Cat method, and then if you want to break it down chapter by chapter, you can do that. I kind of just figure out the chapters as I go. What got you into writing? So I actually hated reading when I was really young, and I'll tell this story even though I've told it a million times before, but I hated reading, like despised it. I went to a middle school that required you to read a book every month and write a report on it every month, and I always just chose the shortest book in the library. And eventually someone introduced me to the Twilight movies, and at the time only Twilight and New Moon were out, so as soon as I watched Twilight, I was like, oh my god, this is a book. I can read the book for school and it'll count. And mind you, at the time I was reading books that were like 100 pages, and I think Twilight's something like 500 or something. It was just a lot more. And my brother was like, there's no way you're gonna read that. And I was like, I'm gonna read it. And I read it in like 2 or 3 days, if I remember correctly, and I was obsessed. So that's how I got into reading, and then from there, the obsession just kept going, and now I'm writing books, and I don't know why, but it's what I do. Out of all the books you've written so far, which is your favorite and why? I hate this question so much because I hate choosing favorites, and it also depends on my mood. But I really enjoy I Am Mercy. Like, I feel like that's my one book that I feel like doesn't get enough attention. Like your debut novel usually always goes well, especially for the release because everyone's excited. And then your most recent book, which is She's Not Here, does well just because it's the most recent. And then I have like I Am Mercy, which is like the awkward middle child that no one pays attention to. But I Am Mercy is one of my favorite books just because I feel like I was a better writer. I feel like I like that book I poured my heart and soul into. I wrote it in maybe like 2 or 3 months. It's also my longest book. And it just means a lot to me, and yeah. Can you tell us more about your work in progress? So my work in progress is a young adult thriller, and the working title is Sick and Twisted. I've paused the work in progress for a little bit because I'm working on something else that I will actually reveal to you guys next week. So the next video you guys watch will be the video where I tell you what my actual work in progress is, but the work in progress that you guys are aware about right now is Sick and Twisted, which is a young adult thriller, murder, mystery sort of deal. And I've really enjoyed it, and I have to put a pin in it just because I want to finish this other thing before I continue with Sick and Twisted. What is your biggest writing related dream right now? My biggest writing related dream, I would just say to be able to like make money off of it and not have to stress about it. Like, that's the big thing. Like, so I'm full-time right now just because I got laid off from my job. But that doesn't mean I'm making the same money I was at my other job. In fact, it's, as of right now, nothing. Because business expenses, and I have to get better at that. But I would say, like, I've always wanted to do, like, a book tour. And I almost did do a book tour, and it just didn't work out. But that's a big dream, to do a book tour, to, like, do a conference and feel important. Like, I've done conferences, but they're like small conferences, so I'm like the best they could find for a speaker. I would love to be a speaker at like BookCon, and just like feel like there's a huge room of people there for me, and to feel like what I wrote is important and what I do is important. That's like my dream, I guess. Do you have any regrets when it comes to your writing career? I hate this question so much because I like to keep the regrets in my head. My biggest regret, and I thought of it as soon as I saw this question, is how the publishing process went with She's Not Here. It just didn't go great. There were a lot of hiccups. You guys already know I published the book with typos, and I just feel like I'm always, like, even when I see someone reading the book now, I'm cringing. I'm like, oh my God, what if they find typos? Like, it's now something that just bothers me to my core. And I feel like I'm just gonna spend the rest of my life trying to correct typos. And that's all, that's the regret. I wish I had edited it better before I published it, because that's just, it's to the point where one day I was like, I should just unpublish this book. Like, it's crap. I don't want to deal with it. I'm gonna unpublish it. And it's still published, obviously, so if you want to read it, I guess you can. But it's a book that, it's a book I'm so proud of, but it's also a book that makes me cringe when I think about it. What part of writing do you enjoy the most? So I love when, I hate writing the first draft, I should get that out there. And I don't mind editing too much, but I love just when I'm at the stage of like polishing stuff up and I'm reading what I wrote and I'm enjoying it. Like I'm enjoying it as a reader and not as someone who's trying to tear their work apart. I'm just like, oh my God, I wrote that, and I can just be happy and proud of it. We're gonna answer all these questions before the cookies are out, but I still hope you guys stick around. I'm just trying to kill time while I wait for cookies to cook. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self some writing advice, what would it be? So in terms of advice, I feel like I definitely didn't need career advice, because I feel like, this is gonna sound cocky, but I feel like I killed it when I was younger. Like sometimes I'm like, I think I was in my prime when I published Essence. Like, like even now I look back, I'm like, I feel like everything for Essence just went well, and whenever I publish books now, it's like roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. But in terms of writing, I spent a lot of time when I was editing Essence changing the tense of my book. So initially I wrote it in past tense, and then like halfway through I started writing it in present tense, because I don't know why, but I did. And so then I spent a lot of time then editing it to rewrite it in present tense. And I guess the biggest writing advice would be to figure out your style before you start writing a book, because that's where I wasted most of my time. Would you be open to co-authoring at some point? And I would say I'm already a co-author. I co-author the Marketing for Authors series with Bethany Atazeta, and it is a 3-book series for now. Eventually it will be 6 books, I promise you, but we are both just so ridiculously busy that we keep putting it on the back burner, because to us, our fiction books always come first, and the nonfiction is more like a fun project we do together. So I promise there are more books, they're just not here right now. As far as co-authoring a like fiction series, I'm gonna go get my cookies. I'll answer that question later. These cookies aren't even close to done. I don't know why it said 10 to 13 minutes. So while those cook more, I don't think I'm open to co-authoring a fiction series. Just because I can't imagine how that would go well. I know other people do it successfully. I just don't think I'm that good at teamwork. Like, ugh. I'm definitely a bit of a control freak. Like, if you guys ever know me in real life, when it comes to making stuff like schedules and plans and anything like that, I'm a bit of a control freak, and I apologize for that. But I think because of that, I would not make a good co-writer. All right, the next chunk of questions is all cover design. So, what kind of covers do you like designing most? That one's easy. I love designing contemporary covers, like anything, whether it just be regular contemporary fiction, contemporary romance, whatever. I feel like you can get a little extra artsy depending on like the genre. Like the YA contemporary book covers tend to be a little more artsy, whereas like the young adult romance contemporary, they're like very standard, so those aren't as fun to design. But anything that's like gets to be a little artsy, I have fun with. I'm gonna do something risky, and I'm gonna take some of the cookies out before they're done and use that in the ice cream. And it'll be like half baked, because that'll work, right? So here are designated ice cream cookies. They're still very much squishy. I think that's a good thing. We'll see how they turn out. We'll let them cool. I'm gonna just slide them off and move this. The rest of the cookies are gonna cook a little bit more, but these are going to cool off right here. Oh my God, I'm so tempted to just eat it right now. So currently we have more cookies still cooking in the oven. We took the cookies for the ice cream that need to be underbaked. They're cooling right here on the counter, and now I'm gonna gather all the ingredients for the ice cream. So for your ice cream, you're gonna need a cup of sugar, a cup and a half of half and half, and a cup and a half of heavy cream, and then last but not least, an entire tablespoon of pure vanilla extract. The next step is to take the sugar in half and half and combine them in the blender until the sugar is dissolved. Then after that, you add all the rest of the remaining ingredients and pulse for a few seconds to combine. I don't know why, that's just in the instructions, so follow them. Oh, oops, don't do that. Make sure the hole is blocked. So these are the finished cookies, like how perfect. And these are the cookies that I took out of the oven early, and they're still doughy, which I think is a good thing, but they look absolutely disgusting compared to these cookies. Okay, so now that we've got the ice cream mixture mixed, this is where the ice cream machining part comes in hand. So I got this for Christmas. That's why I make my own ice cream. It's not because I have a desire to. It's because I got one of these for Christmas and I think it's cool, and homemade ice cream tastes way better. So I'm going to go ahead and take the cap off and pour this stuff in. Oh good, it's nice and lumpy for some reason. I probably let it sit too long because I was tending to my cookies. Okay, so now I have to remember how to put this in here. Let's see. Not that way, it's the other way. I always forget. Then this plops in there, it sits in the ice cream, and then I have to figure out again how to work things. It's just gonna mix. Now that back there needs to mix for 30 minutes and just keep spinning on low for 30 minutes. So right now I think I have it on a 1 or a 2, but I'm gonna turn it on a 2 after this because that's the proper speed, and gonna leave it for 30 minutes, and we're gonna go to my office, take a cookie with us, and answer more questions. I decided not to go to the office because I got lazy, and I also want to show off my rainbow bookshelf. I just did this for a video on Patreon. I redecorated my entire shelf, so if you want to see the vlog from that, it'll be linked down below. But I have a cookie in hand. I just dropped the cookie. I again have a cookie in hand. Only a small piece broke off. The floors are clean, I think. But I'm gonna taste it. Okay, I'm gonna finish these questions now. So, if your cover artist creates fun characters for your cover, and you want to make character cards, bookmarks, and so on, do you hire someone else to do it if the first artist can't? So this is in the situation of, like, say you had cover art created for the cover, but you also want to use that cover art for stuff like bookmarks or whatever. So you just have to get permission from the designer. Like, I'm assuming for whatever reason, maybe the designer's too busy. It'll be easiest for the first artist to do it because it's their art, they're familiar with it, they have all the original files. But sometimes when you hire a cover designer, if they create cover art for you, like character art, they will give you just that character art as a separate file, or you can ask them to give you that character art as a separate file, and you can either try doing it yourself, or if you absolutely need to, you can hire a different designer, but try to, you know, stick to that original designer. But yeah, you might be able to get those original files as well. It really varies from designer to designer in what kind of rules they have for their clients. How do you find and create fonts for the covers you design? So the fonts I use are all designed by someone else. Usually there are designers that work specifically with fonts, and that's like their focus, because there's a whole art to fonts. Like, I learned the basics of it, why, you know, some fonts look better than other fonts, and what goes into the basic shape of a letter. Like, there's a whole theory and there's design aspects to it. So usually you'll get a designer who focuses on that, and then they sell their font, and then they make money off of people like me who need to buy the rights to that font to use it on the cover. So I use a lot of different sites. I really don't even know if I can recommend you guys to a specific site with cool fonts, just because I don't use any one. I try my best to use the fonts provided by Adobe. I have the Adobe software, so they also have their own sets of fonts that are all like, I don't need to buy the rights to, so I don't need to spend extra money. But occasionally I will get an author who either already has a font and I then need to buy the rights to that font to use that font myself, or if I can't find the exact font I'm looking for, I will go to a whole bunch of different font websites. A lot of the times is that I'll go to a website like dafont.com, find a font I want, but if it seems expensive there, I'll search for that font on other websites until I find it for the cheapest price. I will say I have modified fonts, like I'll modify it to like the end of an S to add like some swooshy thing, and I can do that, and I do that through Adobe Illustrator, which is working just with vectors. That way I can completely customize the font to really create something perfect. How do I learn cover design? So cover design is something that takes a long time to learn. I would still say I'm learning. Like, as a graphic designer, you're always learning. I didn't take any specific courses. I'm sure they are out there and that they exist. But I personally have been doing weird Photoshop stuff probably since about 8th grade. Like, if you look back at my old profile pictures on Facebook, yeah, I did a lot of weird Photoshop stuff. Not like photoshopping my face, but like photoshopping the background, adding like a cool wolf face and sparkles and weird things that I thought made me look cool. But yeah, it was bad. But in college, I also took a bunch of graphic design classes. I was an English major with a communications minor, which meant that I realized very last minute that I enjoyed my communication classes a little bit more than my English classes. And in my last 3 semesters of college, I took basically nothing but communications classes because I was so obsessed. What do you use to design book covers? So for the most part, I use Adobe Photoshop to design covers. I will occasionally design covers in Adobe Illustrator, and like I said earlier, sometimes I will modify fonts in Adobe Illustrator, and then I use Adobe InDesign to design interior for books. Which online graphic designer course do you recommend most? And I guess I'll just reiterate that I don't have any courses that I took. I'm sure they're out there, I'm sure they're great, but really the best thing that you can do is just learn photo manipulation, because that's probably about 80% of covers is learning how to manipulate photos to make them perfect, especially when it comes to fantasy, because you have to manipulate photos to create a fantasy scene. But text and creating balance and knowing the basic rules of design is a huge thing as well. I actually learned most of my graphic design from different books I read, and if I knew where they were, I would show you, but I have no clue where one specific book is, but oh, here it is. So, it's a textbook. It's Design Elements, a Graphic Style Manual. And it goes over all the basic principles, and it's also very beautifully graphically designed. And I can highly, highly recommend it. I believe I've actually read this book cover to cover, and that doesn't happen ever for textbooks for me, but I found it so informative, so I will leave it linked down below if you're interested in reading it. But this won't teach you things like how to use Photoshop. This just teaches you design principles. What is the best part of designing book covers? I would say the satisfaction of it. So a book can take a long time to write and publish, but a book cover takes much less time. It could take as little as a few days to as much as I don't know, maybe 3 months maximum, and that's if people are slow to respond to my emails. It's like instant gratification, and even better is when there are the cover reveals and people are excited and they're complimenting the book cover, and I feel good about myself. And that's the best part. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I just like getting a pat on the back sometimes. How'd you get into cover design? So, I actually, if you guys didn't know already, I designed the initial covers for Essence and I Am Mercy. Here are the covers. They're not the best. I was 17. Leave me alone. And then they were redesigned by another cover designer because at that time I was tinkering a little bit more with cover design, but I wasn't fully confident. I don't think it even ever occurred to me that I'd be designing covers for other people, because if it did ever occur to me, I definitely would have hired someone else to do it. But either way, I did not design the new covers for Essence and I Am Mercy, but I had a very strong opinion in the design of them, which made it a little more difficult to hire someone else to do it because I was being a control freak, but you guys already know that. But when Bethany and I were working on the Marketing for Authors series for the very first time, we agreed that she would do the formatting and I would do the cover design. And it turns out that I wasn't that bad at it. So Bethany was like, you should do this. So I gave it a shot and look where I am now. Why did you get into cover design? So like I said, initially it was just because Bethany told me to, and I just do what I'm told. But I ended up kind of really enjoying it, and it's also nice to get a paycheck. And it's easier to make money off of book cover design than it is selling a $3.99 ebook. Where do you find your stock photos? I personally use deposit photos. Occasionally I'll use Shutterstock, but there are about a few million stock photo websites out there, but the more you comb through them, the more you'll realize they're all more or less the same. So I just do whatever's cheapest. Now we are gonna move into the marketing section. So what is the #1 piece of marketing advice that authors miss most often? Would it be cheating to say marketing in general? Like, I've seen so many authors that complain about not having book sales, and they're like, what can I do to market my book? But they're literally like doing nothing, and you can give them all the instructions in the world, but they don't market their books. And basically what I'm saying is, that's not me saying that authors are lazy, and maybe sometimes they are when it comes to marketing, but it's also just the fact that some authors just don't understand that they need to be the ones doing the marketing, and that it's also not gonna be a magical snap of the fingers and you'll have book sales. Like, marketing is a constant push and a game of win and lose, and sometimes there's more losing than there is winning. There are so many authors that will market the heck out of their books when it first releases, and then forget that they need to keep doing that after a month passes. Like, literally your book will not sell itself. And it's ironic because Bethany and I have a book called How Your Book Sells Itself, which is great because that's how you set up your book to be streamlined, to sell itself and to do all this stuff, but you still need to put your book in front of people. Your book can sell itself in the sense that if people see it, they will buy it. But if people don't see it in the first place, they're not gonna buy it. And by the way, if you want to read How Your Book Sells Itself, it will be linked down below. But basically what I'm saying is that you need to learn how to constantly be reaching new people. I find myself getting in the rut of I'm always reaching the same people, the people who already have my books and have read my books and have hopefully reviewed it on Amazon and Goodreads. What I always have to strive for is reaching the other people who don't know I have a YouTube channel, who don't know I'm on Instagram or all of that stuff. I need to learn how to reach the new audience. So that's what I'm always striving for, and that's what everyone needs to strive for no matter what. So even if you have zero platform, I'm reaching for the same thing that you are. I'm just reaching for new people. I'm not looking to talk to the people who already have read and bought my book. I'm looking for the people who have no clue I exist, which is the same for you guys, even if you have no one following you online. Which brings me to the next question. What are some ways to market without YouTube or an online presence? I'm gonna go as far as to say you should always have an online presence. You don't need a YouTube channel, but you should at least have at least one social media profile to show people that you are there, that you exist. But there are also many ways to market yourself offline. Now, Moon was meowing and he wanted to join. But as I was saying, there are plenty of ways to market yourself offline. And by offline, I mean in-person events. But here's where things get tricky. Because odds are, if you're a writer, you're an introvert and you're going to hate doing in-person events. I do in-person events at least once a month when social distancing isn't a thing. So with that said, if you're not going to be interested in doing in-person events like book signings because you're an introvert, but you also don't want to do an online presence just because you feel like you're not good at it, you have to pick one or the other. So invest your time into one of them. Hi, what are you looking at? The next question is, what is your go-to advice for someone looking to build an online platform? Oh God, I should note that I'm allergic to my cat and his fur is doing nothing but flying in my face. So first and foremost, consistency is the biggest key. Social media does not get built overnight. You need to try and try every single day and keep doing it even when you feel like no one is listening. I did not get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube because there were 10,000 people watching me from the very beginning. I started on YouTube talking to myself every single week, and I just pretended like there were a bunch of people that cared about what I had to say, and I just kept posting, and I was consistent. That way when there were people following me, they knew every Tuesday I posted a video. So I guess that's my advice. Just keep talking when you think no one is listening. And the last set of questions, as Moon is over on his cat tower making lots of noise. I would show you, but his cat tower is absolutely disgusting because it's covered in his fur. Alright, so personal questions. What would you have done 2 to 3 months ago if you knew you'd be full-time now? I don't know. If I knew, I maybe would have cried a little bit less because right before I was laid off, I was very, very stressed in the sense that I had big plans for my future and I had no clue how I was gonna accomplish them with a full-time job. Like I was thinking like, oh my God, so I wanna do this, this, and this to accomplish this, but I don't know how I'm gonna do this, this, and this while I still have a full-time job that I work 40 hours a week. Like I had no clue how it was gonna work. So it was a little bit of a relief when I got laid off. But I also would I think if I knew I was getting laid off, I would have saved money a little bit better. Not to say I spent money on extravagant things, but like maybe booked more cover design clients knowing I'd have more time for them. Maybe not bought things that weren't absolutely necessary because I don't have an income now and that's stressful. But I do think the biggest thing is that I think I would have been a little bit less stressed, but also if I also knew that, I think I would have been a lot stressed because that was my biggest panic as soon as it happened was, oh my God, I have so much debt and I have no job to pay for it. What country would you like to visit most? So this is a tough one. So my lovely husband and I are eventually gonna go on our honeymoon. The plan is to go to Scotland, to be in Edinburgh and also the Highlands, and then from there we're going to Liverpool because I'm a Beatles fan, and then London, and then Marseille, France, and then finally Paris, France. Unfortunately, all that's being delayed because of certain circumstances, because we were supposed to leave in 3 weeks, and now I don't know when we're leaving anymore. But so those are all of our top like travel destinations between Phil and I. Phil wanted to go to London because he has friends in London. I want to go to Marseille because my second book, I Am Mercy, takes place in Marseille and it's always been a dream to go there. I also want to go to Scotland in the Highlands because I love hiking and my husband has agreed to hike the highest point in the UK with me. And in case you're wondering, that's Ben Nevis, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'm very excited for it. But anywho, I would say out of everything, my heart wants to say Scotland, which is funny because I didn't even know I wanted to go there until I started researching about it. But now that I've researched it, I'm looking very much forward to it. And also let me know in the comments down below if you guys want to see, like, I plan on vlogging our honeymoon no matter what, because I'm actually kind of mad. When we spent our 4-year anniversary at Niagara Falls, I kind of wish I had filmed some of it so I could look back on it, and I kind of regret that. So now going into our honeymoon, I'm like, I'm definitely gonna film some of it. I want to remember it. And so the question is, do you guys want to see it here on YouTube, or should I just keep it for my personal self? I think that answered the question. How did you meet your husband? So that's a funny story. I started online dating because I got sick of people, and I just thought online dating would be fun for a little bit. And then Phil, my husband, had been online dating for a long time, and we were both on OkCupid, and Phil's sister hacked his profile, found me. I had a selfie in front of my bookshelf like this, and she reads books, and Phil's dyslexic, so he hates books. And she picked me out. She said hi to me and then handed off the little messenger thing to Phil, being like, hey, talk to this girl, I like her. So and I guess the rest is history. I think we talked for like a week or two before we actually met in person. And that's a whole nother story of how we met in person. It ended in my mom crying hysterically because she thought I was gonna get killed or something. And last but not least, and I love this question, was there a moment where you felt like you finally made it after all the hard work? I have not made it. I don't know if this was referring to YouTube, because I have 10,000 subscribers. I feel like I have not made it. Like, I feel like I still struggle every day to get views on YouTube because things are constantly changing. What you guys are interested in constantly changes. The content I create constantly changes in regards to that. I do not feel like I have made it in terms of YouTube. I do not feel like I have made it in terms of book sales. Like any other author, I still struggle to get book sales. I still struggle to get book cover design clients. I still struggle paying for things. Guys, I just got laid off. I do not feel like I have made it. Because in some ways, I'm better than I ever have. But in other ways, I feel more upset than I ever have about the situation I'm in. But I'm also in a situation I can't control. And it's a very complicated time for me where I feel like I've reached some sort of success, but also ultimate failure at the same time, if that makes any sense. And I honestly don't think anyone ever feels like they have made it. I feel like even the most successful people in the world, when they reach a goal, they just make a new goal, and that's a good thing, but it also makes you feel like you've never made it. But you also kind of need that sense of continuing to reach to improve, because I don't know who says it, and I'm probably gonna screw up the saying, but there's no such thing as like a plateau. You're either improving or disproving. I don't know. You're either going forwards or backwards. There's no like staying in one place. If you're not moving, you're probably going backwards. So you either have to move forward or move backwards. Yeah, like I said, I was probably gonna screw it up. But that was all the questions, and now it's time to move back to the ice cream making. Alrighty, so we have our ice cream that's now been nice and like thickened, and we have our cookies that are still slightly like mushy, and we're gonna take this out, and you can really see how nice and thick it got in that half hour that I was talking your ear off. So now we're just gonna go ahead and destroy our cookies. So next up, I'm just gonna add that nice half-baked cookie dough into the ice cream and mix it up. Sometimes I will mix it while it's still connected to the mixer, but in this case, I just kind of forgot that's what I normally do, so I mixed it by hand. Then to make things even more exciting, I decided it was time for some caramel syrup. So I just squirted, you know, a bit in there. There's no professional way of doing that. And mixed it in, but also don't mix it like too much. Yeah, I might have done this part wrong. So, yeah, don't listen to me. The next thing you do is you take your ice cream container and you fill it with ice cream and just top it off. So basically you're gonna take as much ice cream out of there as possible, put it into this container, and then put it in the fridge. The minimum is 8 hours to kind of get that right texture. After 8 hours, it'll be more of a soft serve texture, but after 2 or 3 days, it'll reach that hard ice cream texture. So I personally wait the minimum 8 hours, have my first scoop, and enjoy it, and then still enjoy it after it's reached the hard texture point. But at this point, it is edible. It's just not the right texture yet. And the cookies were still like doughy, but not like unhealthy eating doughy. If you want, follow me on Instagram and you'll find out if I get sick from this ice cream. So that is it for today's video. This is gonna go in the freezer for the allotted 8 hours and I'll have it to enjoy tomorrow. If you really want to see me enjoying it, I'm sure I'll post about it on Instagram. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you so much for 10,000 of you subscribing to me here on YouTube. You are all amazing. If you have requests for future videos, be sure to let me know. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week.